checked and unchecked exceptions. Proceeding further with the chapters of exception handling, we are going to work with checked and unchecked exceptions. There are two types of exceptions, checked and unchecked. In this chapter, we are going to discuss these exceptions. The main difference between checked and unchecked exceptions is that the checked exceptions are checked at compile time, while unchecked exceptions are checked at runtime. Let us learn what are checked exceptions. Checked exceptions are checked at compile time. It means that if a method is throwing a checked exception, then it should handle the exception using try catch block, or it should declare the exception using throws keyword. Otherwise, the program will give a compilation error. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Checked exception example. In this example, we are reading the file myfile.txt and displaying its content on the screen. In this program, there are three places where a checked exception is thrown as mentioned in the comments below. File input stream, which is used for specifying the file path and name, throws file not found exception. The read method, which reads the file content, throws input output exception, and the close method, which closes the file input stream, also throws an input output exception. We have import java.io.star class example public static void main string args. File input stream FIS equals to null. This constructor file input stream file name throws file not found exception, which is a checked exception. FIS is equal to new file input stream b/myfile.txt. This is the name of the file and the location of the file. Now int k method read of file input stream class also throws a checked exception input output exception, while k is equal to fis.read not equal to -1 system.out.print char k. The method closes the file input stream. It throws input output exception fis.close. Now a problem is that if a file is not found, that is an error. So when we open the file or read the file or close the file, so such part, in every part it is going to throw an exception, and we are going to catch each and every part. Now let us have a look. Exception in thread. When we execute this program, exception in thread main java.lang.error unresolved compilation problem, unhandled exception type file not found exception, unhandled exception type input output exception, unhandled exception type input output exception. Now why this compilation error? Now as I have mentioned in the beginning, that checked exception gets checked during compile time. Since we didn't declare the exception, our programs gave the compilation error. Now how to resolve this error? There are two ways to avoid this error. We will see both the ways one by one. The first method is to declare the exception using throws keyword. As we know that all the three occurrence of checked exception are inside main method. So one way to avoid the compilation error is declare the exception in the method using throws keyword. Now you might be thinking that our code is throwing file not found exception and input output exception both, then why we are declaring input output exception alone? Now the reason is that input output exception is a parent class of file not found exception. So it is by default covers that. Now if you want to declare them like this, public static void main string args throws input output exception file not found. Let us have a look to the example again. Now import java.input output class example public static void main string args throws input output exception. File input stream FIS is null. FIS is equal to new file input output stream, that is the path of the file, b the name of the folder, myfile.txt and k, while k is equal to fis.read not equal to -1, system.out.print char k, fis close. Now file content is displayed on the screen. Now the next method, handle them using try catch block. The approach we have used above is not good at all. It is not the best exception handling practice. Now you should give a meaningful message for each exception type so that it would be easy for someone to understand the error. Now the code should be like this. Import java.input output class example public static void main string args file input stream fis equals to null. Inside the try method we have fis equals to new file input stream, b that is the name of the folder, then name of the file. Cat we have except defined the exception file not found exception. System.out.println the specified file is not present in the given tab, int k. Then we have another try while reading the file, while k equals to fis.read not equal to -1, system.out.print char k fis.close. Now cat input output exception, that is IOE, that is input output exception, we have named it as IOE. System.out.println input output error occurred, that is plus IOE. Now the code will run fine and will display the file content. Now here are few other checked exceptions that we have, that is SQL exception, input output exception, class not found exception, invocation target exception. What are checked exceptions? Proceeding further, now let us have a look to the unchecked exception. Now unchecked exceptions are not checked at compile time. This means that if the program is throwing an unchecked exception, and even if you don't handle or declare that exception, the program won't give a compilation error. Most of the time, these exceptions occur due to the bad data provided by the user during the user-program interaction. Now it is up to the programmer to judge the condition in advance that can cause such exceptions and handle them appropriately. All unchecked exceptions are direct subclasses of run exception class. Let us understand this with an example. Unchecked exception. We have class example public static void main string args. Now we have two numbers int num1 equals to 10, int num2 equals to 0. Since I am dividing an integer with 0, it should throw arithmetic exception. Int res equals to num1 by num2. System.out.println res. Now if we compile the code, it would compile successfully. However, when you will learn it, it will throw arithmetic exception that clearly shows that unchecked exceptions are not checked at compile time. They occur at runtime. Now let us see another example. Class example. Public static void main string args. Int ar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is an array, and we are feeding 5 values in an array. Now my array has 5 elements, but we are trying to display the value of 8 elements. It would throw array index out of bound exception. System.out.println array 7. Now the 7th position is not in the array. Now this code would not compile successfully since array index out of bound exception is also an unchecked exception. Note, it does not mean that compiler is not checking these exceptions, so we should not handle them. In fact, we should handle them more carefully. Now for example, there should be an exception message to the user that they are trying to display a value which does not exist in an array, so the user would not be able to correct the issue. Now in the example we have class example public static void main string args. Now then we have try int ar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 system.out.println. Then we have arr 7 catch array index out of bound exception system.out.println. The specified index does not exist in array. Please correct the error. In the output we are going to get the specified index does not exist in array. Please correct the error. Now the sum of the unchecked exception classes we have null pointer exception, array index out of bound exception, arithmetic exception, illegal argument exception, number format exception. So this is all about checked and unchecked exception. Now checked exceptions are compile time. That means we have to be very careful as we write the program. And unchecked exceptions depends upon the user's input or the set of code which will be used at the runtime. So it is runtime exception. In our forthcoming chapters, we are going to work with threading, process and thread life cycle.